Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Method to the Madness, our Breaking Bad edition. I'm your host Mitchie, and joining me as usual is Patrick.
Hello.
This time we're covering season 4, episode 11. I love this episode. I think the season really kind of like builds up to something, and now it's all releasing now, like this, starting with this episode up till the season finale.
Yeah, this
It's
is a real
just so
cliffhanger
good.
episode.
Yeah. And I just love like how you've always got like a build up in Breaking Bad where you got several episodes where not a lot happens and then a release, right? But the build up is so critical because you get invested in the story and everything. So this episode hits even harder because of all the previous episodes. Like, it's just great.
Yeah.
It's just how it works with Breaking Bad, and it works well. Anyway, should we get started through the plot summary, please?
All right. Making their escape after killing off Don Eladio and the cartel's leadership, Jesse drives Gus, who is weakened due to taking his own poison, and Mike, who is wounded, to a makeshift emergency room that Gus prepared earlier. Gus recovers quickly, but Mike has to stay another week before he can safely travel. Jesse is told that he will take over cooking meth for Walter, but Jesse insists that Walter must not be harmed. Gus visits Hector and taunts him as the Salamanca lineage has now been destroyed. When Hank reveals that he will be visiting the laundry Walt works at, the latter deliberately crashes his car, forcing Hank to stop using Walter as his chauffeur. Meanwhile, Ted partly blackmails Skyler about the $617,000 required for paying off the IRS. Skyler organizes to blackmail Ted into signing the check with Saul's men, Huel and Kuby. Ted gives in, signing the check, but attempts to escape. As he does, he slips and hits his head, knocking himself out.
All right. I think the opening scene is pretty cool in this one. It's been 2 weeks since I watched the last episode anyhow, and I just kind of remembered what was going on. And I really like how Jesse just is so loyal, you know, especially to Mike as well. Like, the doctors don't give a shit about him, and he's just bleeding out in a car. And I don't know, like, Jesse could kill them if he wanted to, right? But he doesn't.
That's a good point. He's not, I mean, you know, he's only murdered one person so far. That was Gale, and didn't want to do it. And I don't think, despite being a murderer, he's not like a murderer, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, it would make sense for him to kill them. I mean, he has the opportunity to, but because Jesse is a human being, you know, and one of the most human characters in the series, he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, that's nice, really. Like, it doesn't benefit him really ultimately, but he doesn't do it because he can't. He doesn't want to.
And I like how, you know, like, what was it? Is it in this episode when sort of Walt comes to him, like, you know, fearing for his life, and Jesse kind of, you know, tells him to fuck off, but we do see that he really, you know, he at least doesn't want Walt to be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he visits his house, right?
Yeah.
And actually, that's we haven't read that bit yet, but yeah. He's such a nice dude, but doesn't really want to show it.
Yeah.
He wants to appear like a badass. Like, yeah. Dude, fucking Ted.
It was so funny.
He's just such a dickhead, eh?
He feels uncomfortable paying off his debts with illicit gambling winnings. And then
Yeah.
I love how Skyler just reflects exactly what the audience is going through. Like, what? you don't want to pay off your money laundering. Oh, no, tax evasion with legal gambling money. Hypocrite 100.
But then the ultimate reason is that, oh, you know, if I pay this off, I've still got problems. I've got to, you know, mortgage my house and get rid of my car and all this and that. And it's like, okay, so because you're still going to have a problem afterwards, you're willing to just fuck other people over? Like, it's so selfish. Like Skyler's right. Like, I see it as blackmail, really, in some ways. Like, even though he won't admit it and we're not really sure, it almost seems like he's trying to manipulate her into giving him more money.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucked.
I love the close-up on his face, too. Like, I don't know. You just know exactly what type of person Ted is. Like,
he's such a dickhead. He's literally scum.
Yeah, he kind of deluded himself into thinking, like, no, he's not. He is a good person. He's not bad in any way.
Yeah.
You know, like, if Skyler does offer more money, then that's great. I'll take it. But I'm not blackmailing her, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what I like. It's this really like pernicious kind of character he's got. Like, you know, we've got and when you compare it to the truly bad people in this show, like Gus and Todd, Ted just seems harmless. But what he's doing really is, like, obviously not as overtly bad, but it's actually something people can be like, and therefore it's more of a realistic, like, villain, I guess, in people's lives. Like he's seriously quite manipulative and bad and very selfish and doesn't care about other people, but he does it in a way to convince himself that he's doing all right. And I think that's what a lot of people actually do, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fucked. Yeah, like it's a lot more relatable.
Yeah, okay. And I also like when Hank and Walt are in the car and you know, Walt's, you know, Hank, again, being the good guy that he is, he offers, you know, like a someone to talk to because he notices Walt's bruises on his face.
Yeah.
And then Walt is like, yeah, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it to you or to anyone else. I'm done explaining myself.
Yeah.
Just another example of how Walt and Hank's, you know, journeys of masculinity run opposite to each other, where Hank is giving Walt an opportunity to, you know, open up and be vulnerable, but Walt is just like, no, I don't want to tell my, you know, how I'm feeling to anyone, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
because that's how Hank used to be at the start of the show, especially with after the bomb exploding, that PTSD. Yeah. So like, you know, it's a good example of how Hank has changed and also how Walt has changed. Yeah. I can't believe he just crashes his car. Like, it's the most, like, dodgiest, like, it seems like he did a deliberately accident. Like, the car's just coming and just swerves right into it. Like, but you know, like, I personally do not believe that Hank actually thinks Walt in any shape or form is connected to Gus or methamphetamine. That's my belief.
Yeah, well, it's probably stuff like this that he's adding up in his mind next season, you know, when he does find out.
Yeah. So but then he just chalks it off to like, yeah, it's just a brain fart, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, at the moment, yeah.
Like, I would be totally worried if my brother-in-law just did that randomly. It'd be fucking sus. But I guess it's, hard to believe.
He did walk into the desert in like a fugue state, so...
True. That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting back to Ted, just quickly, this is basically the last scene with Ted in it, except I think a very brief hospital scene when he runs off, slips on the carpet that was so cleverly alluded to beforehand.
Yeah, I love that detail.
Yeah, and man, he brutally fucking smashes his head on that kitchen bench.
And I love later when Hill was like, it was an act of God. Ain't no accounting for no act of God.
Yeah. No, those two are great.
What do you reckon about Gus sort of, you know, taunting Hector? Do you think
it's fucking brutal?
Yeah, it is. Like, in terms of revenge, I think it's pretty effective. Like, you know, Hector is in the ultimate, like, purgatory. Being a crippled old man and still like kind of fully conscious of everything. Like, he's not senile or anything.
Purgatory.
Yeah, I mean that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, you're fucking right. Like that is he's like living a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, like, you know, he has to sort of live a mundane old life in a geriatric home. On top of that, your old nemesis is coming to visit you weekly, just telling you how he's killing off your family members.
Yeah, and this time he's coming back saying that his whole family's destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, that's rough, but you know, I don't really sympathize for Hector because he just murdered Gus's partner in cold blood. So in some ways started it, really. And obviously Hector's not a very nice person. We've seen that before. This dude's like, you know, a criminal psychopath from the Mexican cartel. You kind of feel sorry for him, I guess, but you don't. Like, I felt like the first time I watched it, I felt a lot more sorry for Hector. But this time I have no sympathy for him.
Yeah, me neither.
Which is interesting. Yeah. Even though he's an old man in a wheelchair, you know. But I feel like maybe when the first time you do watch it, you are more likely to sympathize with Hector because you just have this idea of this old man in a wheelchair in your head, and it's a lot more difficult, right, to hate someone in a wheelchair, an old man in a wheelchair. But with, you know, the more you kind of watch it, the more you realize how bad Hector is, and how you realize that this isn't a simple story of good or bad. Like, it's a lot more complicated than that. You just kind of don't really sympathize for anyone. At least this time I'm watching it, like the second or third time.
Yeah, no, he's horrible, no doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Wait, sorry. One more thing about when Hank suggests, that they go check out the laundry, and then Walter's trying to say otherwise. He's like, "Oh, I don't know. This lead seems kind of thin, but that chicken joint, boy, that just seems ripe with all manner of clandestine activities." Like, fucking hell. Well, still such an act. 10 out of 10.
So unconvincing.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on?
Yeah, we should.
Okay. Walter realizes that Jesse has also been cooking in the lab. Walter pleads for them to stick together to thwart Gus, but Jesse, still bitter after their fight, turns his back on Walter. Walt is then abducted and taken out to the desert where Gus threatens him, Hank, and his family. Walt is told to never come back to the laundry again. Panicked, Walter barges into Saul's office and takes Saul up on an early offer to be vanished. This will cost Walt and his family $500,000. Walter rushes home to get the money, which isn't there, and Skyler discloses that she gave the money to Ted to pay off the IRS. Walt breaks down and laughs maniacally as Skyler backs away. Marie Schrader, crying, calls to say that the DEA has received an anonymous tip that Hank is a target again, and that the DEA is sending many agents to guard him. End of episode.
Oh, God, the irony in this last bit when Walt finds out that the money isn't there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so clever, this story. Just like, I really like the fact that, with this Ted story, Skyler's trying to deal with it by herself. And I don't think Walt has any idea what's going on, right? I mean, obviously, Skyler's trying to be like independent, trying to solve this herself for a good reason. And she does it, right? And she puts all this effort into blackmailing Ted to get this signed. Because he's refusing to sign it, and he was actually going to pay her the money back, and now they need the money at the end of this episode, and it's too late. She's given it away. Like, it's just like sad and ridiculous, and just also really well, like, such a great story.
Yeah, no, it is a bit absurd that like the one time, because Walter never he doesn't really spend his money on anything.
No,
and the one time he actually does need it, it's given to the person his wife cheated on him with.
Yeah.
Well, not cheated, but yeah.
But for a good reason.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. Unfortunate timing. One thing, so before I watched this episode, because, I was sort of remembering what happens before I watched it, and I was like, so I remember Gus taking him out to the desert, because Gus makes it pretty clear immediately that he didn't take Walt out to the desert to kill him. He's like, you're fired. And then he gives him an ultimatum. He's like, just like stay out of my business and I will let you live. And then I was thinking, well, why does Walt panic and think he has to disappear? Because he could just lay low and stay out of Gus's business and him and his family would be fine. But the reason why Walt has to act is because Gus is going to kill Hank. And Walt needs to protect Hank. And therefore he's going to have to interrupt or like interfere in Gus's business. And so I don't know, it all came back to me. I
agree with you too, especially when he talked back to him where he was just like, don't come back to the laundry, you're fired. And then he's keeps like provoking Gus, and it's like, shut the fuck up. But then by the end of it, when you learn that Hank is going to die, it's like, it kind of makes sense now.
Exactly.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly.
Walters. Yeah.
And then the final shot is pretty iconic of it panning back where Walt, it looks like Walt is being boxed in. Yeah, I mean, obviously a metaphor for how he's out of options and he's literally like, boxed in metaphorically. I don't know. It's a
great end scene.
Yeah, it is. It's just,
it really sets up.
It's quite like everywhere now. It's quite iconic. Yeah. So it doesn't really do anything for me this time, but I still recognize that it is a good shot. Yeah. Oh,
and the whole end of this episode just sets up one of the best season finales in TV history.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty much all I have.
Yeah. Keen to talk about the next episode.
Yeah. It's not the finale.
No, it's not. So yeah, join us for that next time.
All right, see you later.
Where's the rest? It's not enough. It's not enough.
Walt?
Down here!
What did that phone call mean?
Where is it? Where's the rest?
What?
The money, Skyler. Where is the rest? Skyler, where is the money?
If you like this series, Mitch is going to tell you where you can find more of these.
Yep, so you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. And we've also got a website, amttm.com, where you can find our fabulous episodes on Breaking Bad.
If you have any questions, queries, insights, or criticism, you can send them to mail@amttm.com.
And as always, thank you for listening.